What is going on, Don't Unfriend Me Nation? I hope you're doing well. Matthew Speer from the Don't Unfriend Me show. People that know me are like, wait a second, you're not drinking your morning coffee. This must be the afternoon, and you would be correct. You must be drinking that blue concoction, and you must be going to work out shortly. That is also correct. But what you don't know is that September 19th, today, this Thursday, this beautiful Thursday, gorgeous weather that you can't see because I'm indoors, there's something different. And yes, it's black and white. Why? Why is it black and white? Matt, why are you deciding to remove the beautiful Technicolor display that you show us on every video? Well, it's an ode to the past. It's a nod to the annals of history. When we first got started, I did the shows in black and white, long before Jocko Willink was doing a show. And that's not to suggest that Jocko Willink decided to go ahead and steal my black and white podcast, because he's much better. And two, he could break me in half. And three, he didn't. But the first shows were in black and white. And it's interesting because I was figuring out which hat I was going to wear, and the Dumb Nation hat was like down below my dresser. And I'm like, I haven't seen that in a couple weeks. And then I started thinking, oh my gosh, today is the 4 years. And it marks the anniversary of the Don't Unfriend Me show. And it's interesting because, everyone was like, well, what's dumb? I don't understand. What's DUM? Are you trying to make fun of your people? Are you calling them dummies? Are they idiots? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, well, when we started this, we had several iterations and name ideas, and none of them worked. We were going to be called the Apology Tour 2.0 because of Obama and going around to countries and apologizing, but that didn't work. And we had other, clever names, Republicrat and Demikin, to, show the theory that both parties are the same bird, different wings, and nothing worked. And then because we were recently defriended and ostracized from a family. I mean, if they were Jewish, they would have torn their clothing in spite of us, because my wife voted for Donald Trump. And they said, you're no longer our friend. So they defriended us. And the Don't Unfriend Me show was born. And then when we had like 9 viewers, like a month after we had started, somebody was like, Don't Unfriend Me. Dumb. The acronym dumb. The Don't Unfriend Me show is too long. Why don't we call ourselves dummies? And I was like, well, that's kind of funny. You've been called racist, xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, deplorables, treasonous traitors, insurrectionists, MAGA Nazis. They weren't doing much of that then, but dummies sounds great. Let's do it. So people come on all the time and they're like, Dumb Nation, D-U-M-B. I'm like, that's not how you spell it. But it doesn't matter. The point is it stuck, and people don't understand the humor of it, that really they're just outing themselves when they go ahead and try to insult the listeners. Barstool Sports has their stoolies. We have the dummies, and there it is. Why are we in black and white? It's a nod to history. Here's the thing. As I was thinking about our first episode, it was about Donald Trump and COVID and the lockdown and people's mass hysteria. And it's funny that I'm talking about it today. And as I took it as an approach to, well, let me go ahead and try to disprove while their candidate is bad and our candidate is great 4 years ago, I've grown. I would like to say I've matured. There was a maturation process, love, where I realized that trying to tell people that they're wrong and I'm right, no matter how loudly I can do that, no matter how effectively, or how I can ensure I don't use a monosyllabic vocabulary, it doesn't matter unless they like you, unless they know who you are. And I said, oh my gosh, it's so simple. And everyone's going to be like, yeah, of course, dumb at, this is simple. You didn't think of it, or you would have done it. So this is my premise and theory. It's not that people don't like Donald Trump like I tried to explain. I just didn't know anything about him. And the things that I did here, whether it was Apprentice or gold jets and gold buildings, it didn't appeal to me. And I didn't know who he was. So it's not that I didn't like him. I just didn't have the opportunity to like him. And therein lies the crux. It's not that they hate Donald Trump. It's not that they don't like Donald Trump. It's not that any of those things materialistically that resemble Donald Trump are the reasons that they go, oh, I can't stand this guy. They don't like him because they never got a chance to like him. And because they never got a chance to like him, he'll never be able to change their minds. Now, you may think, oh, well, that was easy, Matt. I knew that. Well, then you should have told me, because it hopefully will make a good show. Here's how I put all that together. And although it may seem very formulaic and simple to you, it's mind-blowing to me because it's a different way of thinking. It's not the actions of Donald Trump. His presence, his ability, his talking style, his attitude, his conclusions are exactly the same as they've been his whole life. You can go watch videos of him being interviewed by Howard Stern or on any of the Fallon talk shows or Dave Letterman, Oprah. He's the same Donald Trump. He's never changed. He's always been a powerful force and somebody who is not afraid to say things that other people are thinking but they are afraid to say. It's always been Trump. So this is why the Democrats created him. This is why they loved him. They put him on all the talk shows. They wanted him to run. A lot of those late night talk show hosts donated to his campaign because they thought they would really create turmoil inside the Republican Party and expose what 2012 to about 2014, even a little bit before 2008 to 2014, the Republican Party was in a deep decline into the ground. It was an airliner going nose first into the ocean. The religious zealots, the Koch brothers, the Tea Party that had split from Ron Paul's ideas to a religious group of zealots that said Sharia law was coming to the United States and women were going to be in burqas, a complete ridiculous notion. Even now, we have more Muslims in our country than ever, and yes, there are certain pockets of our society that wear certain garb or believe in certain things or eat cats, I guess. But that's always been this way. If you want to go back to the Vietnamese and those restaurants called the Golden Palace on every corner, there was the old adage that why aren't there any alley cats near Chinese restaurants? But I digress. He never got a chance. And from the moment that he came down that golden staircase from 2015 till about 6-7 months later, he was presented to the world as an amazing human being. And they accepted Donald Trump as a Democrat who was running for the Republican ticket. And that was the great secret of it all. You would hear when he would leave the stage or get up from the table, hey, that's Donald Trump. And he's a friend to Democrats. And he's going to change the Republican Party. He's going to turn it on its ear. And what he did was reinstitute the belief in a Republican Party that was ran by Reagan with old school principles, the grand old party. And Democrats were like, wait, what? What do you mean family values? What do you mean border? What do you mean wall? What do you mean judges who are against abortion and want voter ID and to protect the Second Amendment? This isn't the Donald Trump that we signed up for. And then the cacophony of shit. The floodgates were opened. And he was forever to be labeled a danger to liberal principles. And they've been trying to destroy him ever since. And you have somebody who was once heralded as a person who should be celebrated on the side of liberals and revered is now a person who needs to be repudiated and castigated into the volcano in order to stem the rising molten lava that will consume us all. The euphemism of Hitler and our democracy will be destroyed, and he won't give up power, and he wants to destroy the Constitution. And it's been nothing but an incessant pool of media shit since. So why am I talking about this? Because as I had this thought, I was watching Gutfeld last night, and I was tired. I think I was up at 0400. I was exhausted. I was ready to go to bed. Their baseball, the Stros just got spanked. I just got done doing a show. Tupperware filed for bankruptcy today. Worst thing ever. Buy them while you can. I've got like 47 of these cups. They're the greatest. They hold an amazing amount of water in my shake. I love them. Sorry, Tupperware. And Gutfeld came on. And I was like, oh, great. Trump's on. I got to watch this. And listen, after covering him for 4 years and watching him in the political realm for 9, I'll be honest with you. There's not much that Trump says that shocks me anymore. And most of it I agree with. Some of it I vehemently disagree with. But Greg introduced him, and I was like, is Gutfeld going to be Gutfeld? Is he going to get caught in the lights? And man, Gutfeld was Gutfeld. He was fantastic. He started off with a joke. And so how's your golf game? Have you been golfing lately? And Trump, during the introduction, the master of ceremonies, Greg, grabbed the mic and let's get ready to rumble. That type of introduction. And Trump was just grinning ear to ear and smiling. That handsome, debonair, attractable, magnetic personality that he can be known for if you aren't a Democrat who's been poisoned by the media and the Democratic Party that he's Satan. You go, that's a Trump I like. And you got to see, he was, of course, in his suit. He stole Tyrese's chair, which is that oversized, dual love seat chair. Trump was in it because Trump's a big dude. And although he had his tie on and he had his normal suit, red, white, and blue, I had forgotten how magnetic he was. I had forgotten how affable he is. And I forgot how funny he can be. As I watched this just kind of wash over myself and my wife as we were laughing at his wit and his ability to tell a story when he knew there was nobody in the audience and nobody on the dais that he had to convince, he was able to be himself. And this is the Trump that I have seen from afar 3 different times, whether it was Andrews or coming off Air Force One or talking to a friend of mine who's a double amputee in the Marine Corps. No matter the times that I've been afar from him, the way he interacts with people was very reminiscent of what took place on Gutfeld. And I was amazed because I had forgotten how likable he can be. And then I also thought about how are Democrats receiving this? Because they're watching it. Of course they're watching it. And they are hating every single thing that I find appealing. And it's simple. Donald Trump can cause change and effect in the way I feel about him because overall, I like him. And he will never be able to create change and cause and effect in the people that hate him. Because that's what's required for meaningful change. To be a change agent. Winning Friends and Influencing People. I think that's the title of the book. If you haven't read it, read it. I read it a decade ago. But what it basically talks about is that if you do want to win friends and influence people, the first thing that's the most paramount is that they have to like you. They have to find something in common with you. There has to be a sinew that ties the lines of delineation that separate you until you get to know somebody. And if you don't give them that, if you don't create that, the opportunity for change will never present itself because they just simply won't allow it. They won't allow you into their orbit. They won't allow their 6-foot shadow or 3-foot shadow, the circle around them, to be penetrated by you. And it doesn't matter whether it's from a physical sense, a mental sense, metaphysical, anatomical, existential, you ain't getting in. And I think about Joe Biden and my opinion of him, even though I don't like Joe Biden's politics, I've watched Joe Biden for 40 years do his thing. And although I can say that he is most assuredly a racist, he is, by his words, by his actions, by eulogizing Klan members, to his comments about people at 7-Eleven. I know that because nobody had to tell me, because I watched it live. I saw him as a plagiarist. I saw how he would steal speeches from other people. I saw his State of the Unions where he would plagiarize himself. I don't need a roadmap and a compass or someone to, show me the guide on to say, this is the direction you go with Joe Biden. But I don't hate him. I don't want to see anything bad happen to him. I don't want to see him die. I have no ill will towards Joe Biden. I think he was absolutely the worst president we've ever had. Outside of Jimmy Carter, he still sits to the worst president ever. But I don't hate him. I don't wish him ill will. And if I saw him and somehow I found myself sitting next to him, I would have a conversation with him. I can honestly say that I don't think there's one Democrat who is bought into the ritualistic torment and destruction of wishing for Donald Trump and his demise would ever be able to say that. Because a recent poll that just came out, and it's from Blaze, but it's a fairly large sample size, and it's one that I believe is that 30% of Democrats believe that if Donald Trump no longer was living, it would be better than him being alive. That astounds me. That shocks me. Because no matter who the leader was, ever, in American history, wishing them harm or wishing them to die, it goes back to the blacker and darker magics that created so many problems for women, for immigrants, and for the uneducated before science and religious beliefs were able to meet in a somewhat coexisting habitat. We look at what they did with the witches. We look in the plague, that a lot of women who were single had cats. And they found that the bubonic plague came from fleas. And they would bite rats. And then ultimately that's how it spread. But rats have an aversion to cats. Therefore, the rats wouldn't crawl over food and infect the cellars and the cheese and the bread. And the women who had cats in abundance would live. And they castigated them out and called them witches because of it. And now synonymously, witches and cats are tied at the hip. And you can talk about the Salem witch trials. You can talk about voodoo and some of the things that were said about Haitians long before Ohio. And you can talk about satanic principles and look at the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s when Dungeons and Dragons came out and the aversion to playing games like that our mothers had. Magic, voodoo, witchcraft. And the reason I bring up the dark arts is because that was the biggest fear of people who were ignorant to science and ignorant to what Christianity truly was, which was a religion of love and care, not burning people at the stake because we want to go ahead and accuse them of satanic worship or witchcraft or creating voodoo dolls. But what was synonymous with the dark arts was being cursed or wishing harm upon others. And that is why, from the days of yesteryear, that people were terrified of witches or voodoo or Dungeons and Dragons or witchcraft, is that they felt that they were going to be cursed or that their life would be forfeit to be sacrificed to Beelzebub or Cthulhu. And when I look at the ritualistic sacrifice that takes place in the name of Donald Trump, and when you wish him death or his family ill will, it brings me back to that time where most people are still appalled, and it creates a fear, something that's in our DNA. When we look at the past, when harm is beset upon us by another person, we're cautious. We have almost a guttural or Neanderthalic response that's been bred in us, that you don't wish people death. You don't wish them harm. If they break up with you, you don't create a voodoo doll and curse them with eye of newt and lizard's blood. If someone steals from you, you're not supposed to want them to die. You can be upset, you can be frustrated, you can hate them, even if you want to. You shouldn't do that either. But wishing them death over something like that, I can understand if they hurt a loved one and take someone's life that you care about or alter your existence in some way, shape, or form that you can't recover from. That's a completely different situation. But you don't even know Donald Trump. And to wish him death? The man I saw on Gutfeld last night is not the person that Democrats see. And it doesn't matter whether you call him a Nazi or a xenophobe or homophobe or transphobe. It doesn't make it true. The thing that makes any of those things accurate and true are your ability or inability to see Donald Trump as a human being. And I would encourage my listeners who have not watched the Gutfeld show, this is self-deprecating, I guess, a little bit to the Don't Unfriend Me show, but go watch Gutfeld. We're going to watch it tonight at 7 o'clock, and we're going to break it down. And take a look. And if you're a liberal who hates Donald Trump, just watch him. Put it on mute. And see the affable nature, the smile, the kindness, the respect that he shows for the people in the room with him. And I promise you, if you can do that, if you can take just a moment to find one inkling of value in who he is as a human being, you may not love him. You may not even like him. And honestly, you may still say he is just somebody I can't stand and he's morally reprehensible. Fine. But maybe you won't hate him. Maybe you won't wish him harm or death, because I will tell you what's coming that most of us know is that people are not going to stop trying to hurt him. And it doesn't matter whether it's tomorrow or next month or 4 years from now, eventually someone might succeed. And I just wish, and I hope, and I pray that if you're one of those 30% who wish harm upon Donald Trump, that the amount of guilt or regret or shame that you might feel, maybe you never will. Maybe you'll celebrate and you'll go to your deathbed and be happier than a pig in shit. But I will tell you, death fractures the soul. it does irreparable harm to a person's hope and care. And it makes them just a little less human. And it doesn't matter what circumstance, watching a human life be taken is traumatic. How people process it is completely different. But if you're one of the people who are wishing him dead, I think you might need to stop, reevaluate who you are, and ask yourself the question, truly, why do I hate Donald Trump? And is it because what he has done to me? Or is it because what people have said I must believe about him? And I think you'll find that the latter is true. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me show. If you like what you heard and you enjoyed it, great. 4 years. It's an amazing thing. I will see you tonight at 7 o'clock. I look forward to it, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful night. Think about what I said. Maybe you agree or disagree, but remember, just don't unfriend me. Good night.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me show with your hosts, Matt, Leroy, Amy, and Olivia. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.